Last week, we talked about troll information in canon. There were a lot of comments on that video, and it was the single biggest video so far on my channel in terms of views in a single day. So thank you. Also, I got 2 more patrons. Thanks as always to Jojiro, Luna, and now Elizabeth, and Kaleidoscope Mediator. A link to my patron is in the description. With that out of the way, we still have more to talk about. See, the final part of this video series is going to be about bug trolls, how trolls and bugs from the real world can form some interesting extrapolations about their biology. But before that, there's something the fandom brought up that I never considered. Furry trolls. So before we get into the deep rabbit hole that is bug trolls, let's talk about furry trolls.
Back here again, can't get enough. JoJo explains some interesting stuff.
My approach to this was basically to take things that the fandom came up with already and try to extrapolate by asking, what if the trolls were mammalian? First though, let's identify what they have that is mammalian in the first place. 1. Breasts. 2. Hair on their head. 3. A humanoid appearance. There are some things about them that are explicitly not mammalian, which we'll have to explain away somehow. 1. Reproduction with eggs. 2. No lactation. Great. So there's our baseline. 2 weeks ago, I made a video of the various headcanons that were submitted to me, many of which could prop up this furry troll model of ours, but I want to talk about just one. It was submitted basically as a joke, but I'm going to posit it in a serious manner right now. My friend Anna asked a very pertinent question: what if trolls can get pregante? Now, on first blush, you're probably thinking, well, that's not right. There are pages and pages in Homestuck about romance and biology, and that is not how it works. And you're partially correct. If this was a scientific matter, that would be the end of it. But it's not. So let's do a little bit of what I like to call extreme interpretation, where instead of deciding on an interpretation after weighing evidence, we decide on an interpretation, then cherry-pick the evidence. This is also called the PragerU maneuver. To start with, let's talk about the Condess, specifically the Condess's tyrannical rule over Earth in the Alpha Kids timelines. According to the history as Dirk describes, the Condess did a great deal of genetic engineering to humans to make them more troll-like. She tried to make their blood varied in color, she tried to introduce loci. It's easy to assume that this was to make herself more comfortable on an alien world, but what if that wasn't the whole story? How does the Condess know so much about genetic engineering anyway? What if this wasn't the first time she's done this? What if, on Alternia, the same genetic mutations had been tried for, but succeeded? What if the trolls we see aren't original trolls at all, but genetically altered subjects based on the whims of the Condess? We actually have more evidence for this idea. First of all, the vastly different appearances of the before us trolls as well as the adult Alternian trolls. First of all, ancestors on Alternia have very different builds. They're taller, first of all, which could be accounted for age, but they seem to be much bigger comparatively. Another factor is longer hair. Hair, of course, being a trait of mammals. The hair of the adults is uniformly longer than their descendants. It's possible that the Condess genetically modified trolls over time, and modern trolls are an expression of this, with ancestors being further back on the genetically modified timeline. So let's take a peek at the Dolorosa. She has 2 little nuggets of evidence towards this mammal troll stuff. Firstly, her role. If we agree that the ancestors were less genetically modified versions of their descendants, then it's easy to understand the Dolorosa's behavior. She was supposed to live in a cave and tend to grubs, but she just decided not to. Later in Alternia's life, it's shown that staying in the caves is more of a life and death situation, but Jade Bloods still leave anyway. This could mean that instead of a biological imperative, the job was given to the Jade Bloods. The second piece of evidence the Dolorosa gives us is the hiss she makes at John when he zaps into her timeline. While not exclusive to mammals, a lot of mammals do hiss, most notably, of course, cats. Reptiles sometimes hiss as well, but specifically the Dolorosa's hiss is long and sustained, unlike a snake and more like a cat. Next, let's compare the before us trolls. Many of them, too, have longer hair. They also seem taller, which could again be due to age and not a species-wide difference, but it's there. We do know that there was one form of modification that canonically wasn't present on Before Us, Doc Scratch. We could extrapolate that Doc Scratch's changes to the troll race could have been included in genetic mutation, facilitated by the Condis. Other than this, Beforean trolls seem to have more prominent secondary sex characteristics as well. In the Alternian sprites, the genders are more uniform, spare for things like eyelashes or lipstick, but Beforeans are more developed. This again could be due to age, but maybe not. Third of all, in my opinion, is the most glaring evidence: gender. On Alternia, the trolls reproduce using a mother grub who lays eggs. They also reproduce irrespective of gender, with male-male and female-female pairs both producing offspring successfully. This begs the question: why is gender necessary at all? It seems like a redundant quality, maybe something vestigial from something they needed before. Well, maybe it was. Once upon a time. Maybe, much like humans, trolls were once humanoid mammalians who were genetically modified to reproduce using a mediator like the mother grub. This would explain why they have genetic sex at all. Once upon a time, perhaps trolls sexually reproduced just like us, and can in fact get pregnant normally, or could. Maybe something about troll biology over eons of evolution changed this, making a mediator like the mother grub necessary. Maybe the Condis did so to more easily control her species. Maybe trolls are mammals. So, we've successfully justified trolls being mammals, but that leaves the question, what are they like? For this, let's look back at some headcanons from the thread 2 weeks ago. Trolls have little tails. Trolls have paws, or trolls purr. Pointy ears. I'm including these ones up front because I don't think they have any canonical backing, but I do think they're cute, and a lot of people included them, so it didn't feel right to just leave them out. Sea dwellers have blubber. This one fits, especially given that FURRY, who lives deep in the ocean, has more mass than the Condis, who lives above the ocean for some time, meaning that the Condis has less blubber because she hasn't lived in the ocean for a while. Blood color is expressed in the skin. This one fits because, like other humanoid mammals, their skin would be pigmented by their blood in some form. Trolls used to be able to breed without the mother grub, or trolls were bioengineered. This one fits the same theory from earlier. Trolls have a thin layer of fur. This would be pretty cute. It would explain why they appear gray instead of having a definite skin tone. Also, it would make some sense because many animals have fur that has a different composition to that of human hair. In other words, hair and fur are different, and trolls might have both. Troll horns are like deer antlers. This one explains how trolls have mammalian horns, as well as can be corroborated with the fact that trolls' horns don't connect to the skull at all. Some people have said also that they have velvet like deer. Again, I think that's pretty cute. And that's basically it. Mainly, I just wanted to talk about this one in brief because so many people enjoy it so much. I loved seeing everyone talk about their headcanons in the thread before, and I think that the furry trolls, while not backed by canon, is a cool concept, and many fics and a lot of art have been made with that interpretation in mind. Make sure to check out any of the artists in the video, all of their links are in the description. What I find particularly interesting about this is, unlike normal anthropomorphization, people endow the trolls with animalistic traits instead of human-like ones. Also, you're all a bunch of fucking furries. Next week, we'll be covering the final part of this series, Bug Trolls. See you then. I'd like to thank today's sponsor, Antifa. As president of Antifa, I'd like to thank the hard work of everyone fighting against fascism in the United States and abroad. See you next time.